SmartB Sports Update Podcast is brought to you by Optimum CBD. For all your rest and recovery needs, CBD products are your best bet. Go to OptimumCBD.store to order now. Free delivery on all orders over $99. You must be over 18 to order. I use Optimum CBD products personally for my rest and recovery. I train 6 days a week in Jiu-Jitsu, as you've probably heard on the SmartB Sports Update Podcast. I teach, I train, I compete. And without Optimum CBD products, I wouldn't be able to do it. Optimum CBD for all your rest and recovery needs. Lachlan Galvin has future immortal Lachlan Galvin has debuted for the Bulldogs over the weekend, and you must be happy with his amazing performance against, second last ranked team?
Yeah, look, he went on, played the last 23 minutes, Lachlan Galvin. And yeah, look, he went well, but Toby Sexton went really well as well. So he's hoping that nothing happens to Toby Sexton's position, and he's nice and safe and secure in that half-back spot.
I think they really showed what their plan is. Reid Marnie's been given permission to negotiate with other clubs, so Reid Marnie's gone. As soon as Galvin came on, they moved Sexton. They took Marnie off, put Galvin on, moved Sexton to hooker.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why they haven't accepted Sexton's big money request, because they want to move him to hooker. And
they won't pay him what he wants.
Yeah, in traditional rugby league, halfback gets the most, then 5'8", then hooker, or then fullback, then hooker. It's the very rare hooker that is Cameron Smith, So I think that weekend game was an indicator of what's to come. They'll try and offload Reid Marnie possibly within the next 20 days, and move Sexton to hooker permanently. He played well at hooker, but it's against a second last place team. To
be fair, they are second last. You're right. I thought Parramatta actually, I know the scoreboard didn't reflect it at the end of the game, but I thought they actually put up a good fight for a lot of the game.
For around 50 minutes.
Yeah, and I know
Lachlan Galvin came on the field.
I know they just couldn't go with the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs were just relentless with their completions. They just got in the arm wrestle, didn't make any errors, and they just grinded Parramatta out of the game.
The Bulldogs all year have been a second half team. There's been a couple of times they've been down by 20 points.
Yeah, well, against Canberra they were down 20-0 at half-time, came back to win. Against the Roosters they were down 14-0 at half-time, came back to win.
And so when it was close at half-time, I had the feeling the Bulldogs were going to run away with it and, score 20 points in the second half, and that's what they ended up doing. I don't think Galvin being there made a lick of difference to it. I think the same thing would have happened. But the Bulldogs can rest assured that they can now use that as proof of the effect Galvin had on the team, because he came on 20 minutes to go. They scored, 2 tries?
Got it right in front of me, yeah. Kickout scored at the 60th minute, Harry Hayes at the 68th, and Galvin at the 73rd minute.
So they had a really try scoring, but I just have the feeling that if Galvin was on or off the field, they still would have scored 3 tries in that last 20 minutes. But now the Bulldogs can use it as, look what happened. We had our best attack.
Yeah, and we were wondering about their makeup of the bench with Hayward, but so they ended up, to get around that, they ended up moving Hayward into the starting side at lock. They moved Kurt Mann back to the bench, and then that way they were allowed to use Galvin as the utility off the bench. Yeah, that's how they got around that. But yeah, obviously he was always going to play. I don't think anyone believed that he was going to be in New South Wales Cup there, Galvin.
I messaged you on Friday.
Yeah,
I was at an event in which Cameron Serrato was interviewed, and was it James Graham said to him, I know you can't say, but just cough if Galvin will play on the weekend.
And he coughed.
Yeah. So who have they got this week?
They have got the Rabbitohs, but they won't have their Origin players. But then the Rabbitohs won't have Latrell Mitchell either. Yep. So the Bulldogs won't have Crichton, or Matt Burton's the 18th man. So I'm guessing that rule hasn't changed. Again, he's the 18th man, so he won't be playing in that game. So
they can play Sexton and Galvin.
That'll be interesting. That the plot thickens then with Matt Burton not playing this week because of State of Origin.
He's not.
You're right. So it's almost like a playoff. It sort of works against Sexton a little bit, I think, the fact that if Galvin's actually paired with him, Sexton would have been better off, I think, if Burton was still there, and that Galvin sort of got the same, say if Galvin got the same number of minutes, like around 20 minutes next week, I think Sexton would have been better off under that scenario rather than... Well, yeah, you'd have to think, well, it's perfect fit now. Galvin will just partner Sexton in the halves next week with no Burton there.
Burton can't be named.
Because he's 18th man.
Yep, it'll be named. The teams will be named.
It's a ridiculous rule because so much has to happen for the 18th man to be activated, but the 18th man can't play for their club the weekend before.
Today's Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so teams will be named today, or are they going to name them tomorrow?
The Origin team?
No, round.
The club teams?
Yeah.
Oh, no, so they'll still be named today. They'll be named at 4 o'clock.
Yep, so,
So we can have a look at it before we...
Yep.
If we remind ourselves, if we're still on at 4 o'clock, we'll remind ourselves to look at it.
Because, like, I would just suspect it's going to be that, Sexton and Galvin in the halves, just to give them another week of, this is, like, just proof that Galvin's the key to the future. And they, as I said, they've already let Marnie go, basically. It could be that he lasts to the end of the year, but he's been given permission to negotiate with other clubs. And I think on the week, like, depending on if another club, and we'll get to the Dragons in a minute, is willing to offer...
Sorry, but we had to put that. I had to put that down.
Depending on if another club will give Sexton money, Dragons give him money, then I think him hanging around at the Bulldogs and moving to hooker might be what their plan is.
And then they'll just let him go at the end of the season because he wants too much money.
Yeah, well, that's it. That'll be his option, right? Stay here and be a hooker for less money or move to another club for more money.
And I'll tell you what, there's some clubs who could use him in the halves, including yours and some others. But anyway, we will get to that a bit later.
But the Dragons, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, they'll also be missing Max King as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's been picked in the starting side for New South Wales for Origin. And they'll be missing Kurt Mann as well. He's also been picked in Queensland 17. So, I mean, they've named a squad, but I understand that he is going to be in the 17.
Yeah, I think he could be. He also... Do they... No, they don't get released, do they? I don't know. I know the 18 definitely can't be picked.
I think the 18th man... Now that the 18th man is technically in the team... Yeah. I don't think they can play, but I think 19 and 20 can play for their club. I understand that. What
was Kurt Mann named in the...
Look, they've named an extended squad, but I was reading some reports that he is... So because Dearden's now going in for DCE, that Dearden was on the bench in the first game, so that frees up a bench spot. And so Kurt Mann's now moving on into that bench.
Billy Slater originally just named a squad, but now he's been forced basically to name the team, which puts Kurt Mann in at the 14. And so, Kurt Mann's out. He can't be named for the Bulldogs.
No, so they'll be missing Kurt Mann, Max King, Burton and Crichton. So, and South, I'm pretty sure South Sydney's only Origin representative is Latrell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man, Crichton had a cracker of a game yesterday, I tell you.
Yeah, he did that tackle he made. That tackle he made, I can't remember who he made it on.
I don't know.
But it was an incredible tackle. That against any other defender, basically, the attacker scores that try, I think. But he didn't get close. Crichton pulled him over the sideline.
It was like he was trying to prove the Bulldogs are still... family together connection, so he's my cracker again. But it's against Para. They're the second last team on the ladder.
Look, we can't read too much into that win. They are 10 wins and 2 losses after 12 games. It's been a great start, but again, you're right. It was against a team coming second last. We need to see how they go against, they haven't played the Storm yet. We need to see how they go against the Storm. They haven't played, and the Panthers, the Panthers are starting to come good.
Yeah, they got the Panthers in 3 weeks.
So they got to play the Panthers, they got to play the Storm. We'll get more of a read on where they're at when they're coming up against those two sides. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say about a team that's out of the top 8 about the Panthers, but I mean, they have won the last 4 straight premierships, so you would still like to see them put in that really good performance against a big game team.
Yeah, well, the Panthers didn't have the best game on the weekend, but they jumped to 13th. Like, they're coming for the 8, basically.
Yeah, and I think they're only 1 point out of the 8.
1 point out of the 8, yeah. They're coming for the 8. Still at this point, you'd have to say Panthers aren't. That was the question we phrased a few weeks ago. At that time, a few weeks ago, you would say the Panthers definitely are going to make the grand final. The thing is, can they do it? Yes. Is it likely? No. And it's still the same thing. They're more likely now to make the 8. Can they make the grand final? Yes, they can, but that's still not looking likely. They didn't have the best game on the weekend, but they're creeping up. They are creeping up into the 8.
There's 6 teams who are level on 14 competition points. The Dolphins are 7th on 14 points. The Rabbitohs are 12th on 14 points. So you got a bunch of teams there in the middle there. The Broncos, Sea Eagles, Roosters, Dragons, your Dragons. All those teams I just mentioned are on 14 points. And the Panthers are only 1 behind them on 13 points. So the Panthers are 1 point out of the top 8, if you can believe that. So it means they're still in the hunt. They're still in contention.
I'm just checking it now. That was the first time this year they've won 2 in a row as well. And so that's the thing. They can go on a Kalen Ponga streak. It's always possible. Yeah, it was the first time this year they've won 2 in a row.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Just getting back to that game yesterday. Gerard Sutton put on his stage show again. He had to make everything about him. So many stoppages. Had to talk to the captains all the time. The Gerard Sutton stage show had 60,000 people at his stage show yesterday. Was all about Gerard Sutton. Just getting sick of watching his games. Makes it all about him. Has to stop the clock and
constant sin binnings.
Yeah, constant sin binnings. Just has to make it all about him all the time, and did that once again yesterday.
Yeah, it's quite annoying to watch. We're going to do an analysis of which ref actually has sin binned the most this year, but I would definitely say it's.
He'd be up there.
Yeah. It is quite annoying to watch. We talked about it so many times. The ref's job is to be neither seen nor heard.
He doesn't meet that criteria. That's for sure.
He's seen and heard at all chances he can get. Bulldogs. There was the internet was wild on Sunday because the Raiders were first.
Yeah, but you got to wait till the end of the round on those things. People jump the gun a bit, don't they?
It's funny because the Raiders haven't had any buys.
No, their first buy will be this week.
Yeah, only team that hasn't had any buys. A bit unfair there. Maybe for the first time ever, Ricky Stewart did have something to complain about. We're 14 rounds into the season before Raiders get a buy, and Bulldogs, Storm, Cowboys, Roosters, Dragons, and Titans have all had 2.
Yeah, and the Bulldogs will get another one after that game against the Rabbitohs too.
Surely
so they will have had 3 buys in a couple of weeks' time.
Surely it should just rotate. How can you have a bunch of teams having 2 and one team having none?
Yeah, it's complicated. I guess I guess the way to look at it is by the end of the year everybody gets 3. So by the end of the year it evens itself out and works itself out. But
if you've got to do 15 games in a row and then the other teams only had to do 6 and 5, then And now the Bulldogs, it's not just unfair for the Raiders; it's unfair for the Bulldogs, Storm, Cowboys, Roosters, Dragons, and Titans, because coming into the back end of the year, they're not going to have any buys.
But that's the thing. It's probably more unfair on those teams because you don't get that freshen up after Origin. Yeah. You probably want your buys later. I reckon you'd want them more after Origin, where you're desperate for a breather after the Origin series.
It's not fair.
I think you'd prefer to have them towards the end of the season than earlier, for sure, if you got a choice.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It should be even spread out, or it should just be 1 week off for everyone.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, as you said, Sexton moved to hooker, and Marnie just came off, so they just hooked Reid Marnie. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that tells you a lot about what they're thinking.
Yeah.
So maybe they aren't. maybe the plan is they think Sexton to hooker for the rest of this season.
Yeah.
And then, as you say, if he wants too much money to stay there and do that, well, he'll go elsewhere and he will have other places to go.
I think that's what it will be. You can stay here, but we're going to offer you less because you'll just be a hooker.
Yeah.
And, you know, or you can go somewhere else for more money as a halfback, but which team has got more chance of winning a premiership?
Yeah, I think their patience is wearing thin with Reid Marnie at the moment.
Yeah.
I think they've had enough. The ill discipline...
thank you.
The ill discipline, giving away penalties all the time.
Yeah, well,
the general niggle. I think the club's just about had enough of him. To be honest,
I think so. Where is the thing? There was something. Where is he? Reid Marnie. He gave away. Oh my God! This is the thing. 0 penalties on the weekend.
Yeah, that's...
He did get one inside 10 metres.
Yeah. That's unusual. Normally he's at the top of the list in terms of giving away penalties. He did only
play 56 minutes though.
Let's have a look at the season. The season stats. Who are the worst offenders in the NRL for giving away penalties?
Sure.
Let me have a look at that here. But yeah, so... they needed that win yesterday, the Bulldogs, that bounce back after being thrashed by the Dolphins, although obviously they did have a lot of players missing from that game, as we have talked about.
Clint Gutherson.
Yeah, he's given away the most penalties, right? Yeah, Clint Gutherson from the Dragons has given away 11 penalties.
Reid Marnie.
Equal with Britton Nikora from the Sharks, Angus Crichton from the Roosters, Trent Loiero from the Storm. All 4 of those players have given away 11 penalties, and they're the worst offenders this season.
Reid Marnie's 15th at 8, and then there's not very many Bulldogs for a long time.
So he's the worst of the Bulldogs players. Yeah.
Yeah, the next highest is William Kikau at 39th.
Yeah, so there's a big gap there.
Yeah. There's only two players in the top 50, Reid Marnie and Kikau, so... Yeah,
that's the thing, and you know they're really good. They get through their sets of 6. Their completion rate is really good. So if they don't give away penalties, well, it's going to make it hard for teams to beat them. Because yesterday they just didn't give Parramatta a chance. Parramatta in that second half, Parramatta just couldn't get an attacking set. I can't remember one time in that second half where Parramatta were attacking inside the Bulldogs 20.
No, they just got smashed.
They just strangled them out of the game. They grinded them out of it. They played a possession, field position game in the second half, and Parramatta just couldn't go with them.
Zach Lomax tried really hard, couldn't get through. Mitchell, all of their stars stood up. Who was it? Montoya's hit on Penasini.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Yeah.
Can we continue on with the Lachlan Galvin show? I like Reddit has there has been 0 days since the last Lachlan Galvin story every day. It's like, and now the comments are like, there have been 0 days since the last Lachlan Galvin story. Guys, why are we even bother counting?
Yeah. The plot, we will check, hopefully we'll remember to check these team lists at 4 o'clock before we go, but it looks like the plot will thicken with that as we expect Galvin to be named at 5/8 alongside Sexton with no Matt Burton against the Rabbitohs on Sunday.
But as you said, the teams have been named for New South Wales and Queensland. Yeah. Mitch Barnett was dropped for New South Wales. Not dropped. He's only change really because of his injury, but Queensland has gone through drastic changes. They're Queensland. They're still Queenslanders. They pick and stick. Fully loyal. They're still Queenslanders. Well, we're still Queenslanders, Dan. We're still Queenslanders. Are you though? Are you though when you lose? Because you drop your captain. He copped all the blame. It was expected. Yeah. We discussed it last week. He's gone. Dom Dearden's come off the bench into number 7, and Daly Cherry-Evans is out completely. I don't agree with that decision. I think it's...
And so Cherry-Evans and Bo Firma were the only players to be dropped. So it was their fault that they lost the first game. No, nobody else.
Bo Firma only played like 12 minutes.
Yeah. And so they're the two to blame, but nobody else is to blame.
Apparently, Cameron Munster had a cracker of a game, and it was not his fault at all.
And he's now been promoted to the captaincy.
Yeah, see, that's even a weird one. Like, he's been promoted to the captaincy when his captain is in the team. Harry Grant is the captain of Melbourne. So Billy Slater sees something in Cameron Munster that Craig Bellamy doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, look...
It screams of desperation to me.
The Dearden replacing DCE, like Dearden didn't set the world on fire. It just really feels like they're just making this change for the sake of making it.
Well, I saw someone say, I think it might have been Brad Fittler or Andrew Johns, one of those guys. What they said, I think, summed it up perfectly. You have to think to yourself, what does Tom Dearden provide in his game that Daly Cherry-Evans doesn't, to make you think Tom Dearden should come in?
He played in game one, and he didn't fire a shot at New South Wales.
Like, what is he bringing to the starting number 7, that Daly Cherry-Evans doesn't, that makes you think Tom Dearden is going to do it better? Tom Dearden's a great player, but is he going to come in and change everything for Queensland? No. Like, why would he be able to do it over Daly Cherry-Evans, who's a better player? Yes, old.
But at least Cherry-Evans has got runs on the board. He captained Queensland to a series win in 2020 when I think it was Dean Ritchie labelled the Queensland team the worst Queensland team ever, and he captained Queensland to that series win. Captained Queensland to series wins in 2022 and 2023. Look, I understand that he's getting on. I know he's 36 now, and he's getting on in age and everything. But as you say, you can only pick the best team available. And what they really think, they're really that convinced that Tom Dearden gives them more chance of winning than DCE. That's the thing about DCE. He's a champion footballer. He's a premiership winning halfback. He's a Clive Churchill medal winner. He's played a lot of series for Queensland and a lot of games for Australia, and as I just said, he captained Queensland to those 3 series wins. So this is the thing, in sport you got to be careful riding off a champion, and Daly Cherry-Evans is a champion. It's the golden rule in sport, never ride off a champion, and it seems like Billy Slater has done that.
Yeah,
there's another line of thought where you go, well, no, don't you just back DCE into playing better in game 2, giving a better account of himself? But they've decided to go with Tom Dearden. I don't know. I mean, Andrew Johns suggested it after the game, and it's almost like Billy Slater's just looked at that and gone, oh yeah, Joey's right, and then just replaced DCE with Tom Dearden.
It doesn't really make any sense to me at all. Like I said, Tom Dearden's a great player. He's one of the best halves that Queensland has. If I had to pick a representative team and I only had, out of my 2 halves backs, I only had Daly Cherry-Evans and Tom Dearden, I'm going Daly Cherry-Evans 100% of the time.
Because that's the thing, Cameron Munster was off his game in game 1. Harry Grant was off his game in game 1. What? They think, Ponga. What, you think, they're all going to play better now because Dearden's there and not Cherry-Evans?
Yeah, like, if anything, if you were going to drop one of the spine, it surely should have been Harry Grant, because it all started and ended with him. But as I said last week, the issue wasn't the spine. The issue was the forwards were getting monstered. Well, the whole team was getting monstered. They couldn't get a quick play of the ball. They couldn't give Daly Cherry-Evans or Cameron Munster space to isolate a forward onto someone to get a quick play of the ball, or an offload or something like that. And in the end, that's what lost them the game. Because New South Wales was dominant the whole game, but didn't score a lot of points. Well, they missed 3 conversions or whatever, so they did score. Was it 5 tries? 4 tries
in the first game. Yeah. I think it was 4 tries. I'll double check.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4 tries.
Yeah.
4 tries, but only one penalty goal was hit. And yeah, like with one sin bin, that was when Queensland was able to score a try. So Tom Dearden's going to be able to set up a try for Queensland if there's a sin bin just as much as Daly Cherry-Evans is. Yeah. It's just, you gotta...
Yeah, that's right. So we're 8 days away from that game 2 in Perth. So we'll see how it goes.
Is it that's normal time for us? Yeah, it is 8:05 p.m.
Yeah, so it'll be. I think it's a 2-hour time difference, so it'll just be at 6:05 in Perth to line up with our TV.
Yeah,
with Eastern States TV.
Because that's all that matters. And the other controversial decision has been Ezra Mam has made it back to the Origin squad at 18th man.
Yeah, so...
Well, nobody likes that.
Yeah, so... And you know what? The interesting thing is, and they were talking about this on 360 last night, but... The interesting thing is that he's not even going to play Ezra Mam. He's just been included in the extended squad.
Well, he's in the 18th man. He's confirmed now. 18th.
Oh, so he's the 18th man.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So he probably still won't play then.
No,
because the 18th man doesn't usually play.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it's sort of a case of
still gets paid.
But it's sort of this case of. He's probably not even going to play anyway, and they're going through all this PR nightmare of picking him the QRL. It just like if he was, and that's the thing, he's not jumping out of his skin to be picked in the Queensland side. They've just, as you say, he's 18th man here.
Surely, if anything, they should have just put DCE in an 18th man. That would have been better than Ezra Mam. Because, last week we discussed, the booing, how Ezra Mam was getting booed, and so on, and it's been after our podcast last week, a little bit more came out about it, and he's tried to change the narrative, Ezra Mam, as trying to say that people are booing him because he's called out Spencer Leniu's racism. Nobody's booing him for that. People are booing him because he shouldn't be playing this year. And it's the same for Queensland. People don't think he shouldn't have been picked for Queensland because of him calling out Spencer Leniu. People think he shouldn't have been picked for Queensland because of his off-field dramas. But he's trying to change that narrative. It's all about racism now. And that's the PR nightmare, right? They picked Ezra Mam that no fan kind of agrees with, except for some Brisbane fans, and now he's trying to convert it into a whole thing about people don't want me here because of racism, and it just makes it worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the QRL have dug themselves in a real hole here by picking him. We've talked about it a number of times on the podcast. We all know what he did. He got a slap on the wrist from the courts. He was under the influence of drugs. Crashed into an Uber, injured a mother and a 4-year-old daughter. She suffered a broken hip. And he got a slap on the wrist from the courts, and he only got a 9-game ban from the NRL. And now he's just come back. And now he's being picked for Queensland. Again, he's not... he's not in the 17. He's the 18th man. Chances are he won't get a game. So all this hassle, all this PR hassle that Queensland are going to have to put up with as a result of picking him just for having him as the 18th man, where, again, chances are he won't play a part in the game. It does seem like a lot of effort for,
Well, and that's when it was announced that he was in the squad, every internet comment basically was, shouldn't have been playing at all this year. Should have been banned all this year. Should have been out for the year, right? But he's still trying to convert it into this. People are upset with me because I called out Spencer Leniu's racism. First of all, dude, that was 2 years ago. Or 1.5 years ago. No one cares about that anymore. And, it's really your off-season nonsense. Yeah, and I can't understand what their thought process was. What was the point in picking him? Originally, he was named just in the squad. As I said before, Billy Slater just picked the squad, and now he's been forced to name the actual proper numbers. He just read out a list of 20 names, basically. And so there was a little bit of conjecture, is he going to be playing 5/8 over Cameron Munster? No, surely he's not going to be playing 5/8 over Cameron Munster. Then the squad's been finalised and he's 18th man. It's really, why? Why did you pick him?
Yeah. I mean, it was that was one of the worst off-field indiscretions in recent memory.
Yeah.
Only a 9-game ban. I think that's where the outrage comes for people. Most people would agree that he should have got 12 months.
Yeah.
He should have been the whole season. He should have not played this season.
Only people who think that he don't think that are Broncos fans.
Yeah, and people will get over it eventually, but it's going to take some time. Again, he's only just come back from that suspension.
He hasn't been playing that good.
Yeah, it's going to take time. People are really not happy about what went down, about what happened. And you can't blame people for that. I know it's not his fault. He didn't decide his punishment. But when people sense that an injustice has been done, and like here, where he's been given in most people's eyes is a lenient punishment, people are going to make some noise about it.
Yeah, well, that's like you said, right? It's not his fault the punishment he got. He didn't get to decide his punishment. Obviously, he's going to take the minimal amount of punishment as he can. But the reaction of him and his constant defensiveness around people not agreeing with the punishment is just exacerbating the issue. They're constantly trying to change the narrative to, like, this is about racism, not about... It's not about Spencer Leniu. It's about your off-field indiscretions in the off-season. It's about your car accident. It's about your lenient punishment, right? That's just going to keep extending it out. He should just knuckle down, be quiet, not make any comments, and move on. And that's how people will forget about it. You see, I've talked about Matt Lodge before, getting booed every time he touched the ball when he came back. He just never said anything to the media. He never responded to it. He would get asked questions and he would, not respond to it. And it finished real quick. It was over real quick, much to my dismay. But Ezra Mam keeps responding to it.
I mean, and he was good against the Titans on the weekend in that win.
How good was their jersey, by the way? Did you see their jersey?
Yeah, the black jersey.
Yeah,
to be fair, I think it's for the Black Dog Institute.
It is.
Yeah,
but it's a great looking jersey. They should change to that all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, 2 line break assists and a try assist in that game. He was good in that game against the Titans. But again, this is not about his. This is where the reason we have our reservations about his selection is the off-field incident. It's not to do with his on-field.
It's nothing to do with him, his personality, anything that's happened in the past, other than the fact that he had his off-field dramas in the off-season and then got a really light punishment for it. That's what it's about for everyone.
It just you know what it says to me? It says to me the fact that the NRL have allowed this to happen, by giving him the lenient suspension, the only a 9-game suspension, when, as we've said, it should have been 12 months, it should have been a whole season. It says to me that the NRL don't really care about what happened that much, and they just wanted to give him a bit of a suspension to make it look like they were doing something about it. But only a 9-game suspension for that offence, that very serious off-field offence. That says to me that the NRL don't really care about the people who were the victims in that scenario, and they're not really fussed or bothered by the incident about what happened.
Yeah.
That's the message that I get from the NRL and the QRL. The QRL, they're free to pick him, but they could have decided not to. They could have made a stand and said, look, we're not happy with what happened here. We're not picking you for this series. They could have taken a stand on it. They've decided not to.
Yeah. And that's what everyone's problem is.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And so that's the thing. So Queensland will resort to even picking somebody who's committed an off-field offence of that nature just because they went down 1-0 in a series and now they're desperate to win.
Mal Meninga said if Mitchell Pearce was a Queenslander, they would never have picked him after his off-field indiscretions.
Okay.
They're still Queenslanders. Billy Slater told us last year, they're still Queenslanders, bro.
Yeah, he was... he made a real point of saying that in that press conference last year.
But we can get to my Dragons now. You know what? Shane Flanagan is lost for answers after the Dragons lose to the Dolphins by 50. I got an answer for him. Drop Kyle Flanagan.
Yeah. Well, there's the answer, right? He's lost for answers, and we've just come up with the answer for him.
They got pumped. They were terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Normally teams who lose by 50, the halfback would have to take some of the blame for that, wouldn't they?
Well, remember, he was the 5'8", then he went to his dad, he went to his coach and said he thinks he should play halfback after Lachlan Ilias was jumped. So, what's his name? The other young kid can move
Larkin.
move to 5'8" and have less pressure. Well... that experiment is over, my friends. Who is to blame now? Is Larkin King? What's his name? Larkin King Tonga?
Larkin King Togia.
Yeah, that's it. Is he going to get dropped now? Was it his fault?
This is the thing. Lachlan Ilias had to wear the blame for losses that were nowhere near as serious as that. Lachlan Ilias presided over losses that were nowhere near 50 points, and he was on the chopping block.
Yep.
So why is Kyle Flanagan not on the chopping block now after a 50-point loss?
What's his name? Shane Flanagan said that he treats his son exactly like every other player. So
it's nonsense.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's nonsense. That's another thing we can look at when we look at the team lists at 4 o'clock.
That's a 50...
We can look at, will Kyle Flanagan be dropped after that 50-point loss to the Dolphins?
It's a 50-point loss.
Unless they have the bye this week, I don't know if
they don't.
They don't have the bye.
No, wait, hold on. No, do they?
Because a lot of teams have the bye. Maybe.
No, they're playing the Sharks at Shark Park.
All right, well, we can check that as well when we look at the team lists.
And it's the thing, right? Yeah, they've lost this year, which, as you said, Lachlan Ilias wore the drop. They dropped by 8 points to the Bulldogs, 1 point to the Rabbitohs, which was a shocker because they were up by like 20 points. 1 point to the Eels, and then it was 46-18 to the Roosters. I can't do that math. That was when Ilias got dropped, I think. And so even then, they've only lost 1 point, 4 points, and then 50 points. So who's getting dropped now? Jacob Little, Damien Cook, Clint Gutherson.
I'm sure he'll try and find someone else to drop.
Yeah. But everyone wants Kyle Flanagan dropped, and Toby Sexton can't come to the Dragons soon enough.
There's an option right there for them if they want to explore it.
Bro, take Reid Marnie and Kyle Flanagan and Toby Sexton now.
But this is what bothers me about what Flanagan said, where he said, he's been one of our best players. But when he was questioned earlier in the year about, will you treat Kyle like you'll treat every other player? Excuse me. He was questioned about that. And his response was, he said he would treat him like every other player.
So we'll see him get dropped.
And he said he's been one of our best players this season. But your response to that would be, but does that mean maybe he has been one of their best players this season? But that doesn't mean that you might not need to look elsewhere in terms of recruitment and be looking for other recruits in the halves. So does that mean, that's what that reporter should have asked him. They should have said, well, is the fact that your son's in the halves going to stop you from looking for other recruits in the halves? Which I would suggest after they lost by 50 points, they might need to be looking at some other recruits in the halves.
I think what's going to happen is he's going to use the excuse that they're tied 8th. So they don't need to change anything. They're tied 8th, so they don't need to change anything.
Yeah, he'll use whatever excuse he has to use to keep his son there.
Yeah, that's what like all the Dragons fans were happy when Shane Flanagan got signed. All we wanted to see was the Dragons back him to build the team, but the constant nepotism and bias he's showing towards Kyle Flanagan is not making people happy. It's really like you can't lose by 50 and not make changes. That's what
you have to ask yourself. If he wasn't playing for the Dragons, would he get a start with any other NRL team? No, he wouldn't.
He might now, with the state of halves in the league, but it'd be at the Titans.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other teams that have halves just as good as Kyle Flanagan right now, and none of them are in the top 8. That's the thing, right? He would maybe be in and out of the Titans or in, what's it called? Obviously, the Eels aren't going to drop Dylan Brown or Mitchell Moses, but Dylan Brown's playing about as well as Kyle Flanagan right now. But Dylan Brown had a shocker on the weekend against...
he was very quiet. Yeah. It seems... I think he's going to be able to get away with just coasting until the end of the year. There's no real accountability now, is there? Because they're where are they on the ladder here? The Eels are second last. Yeah. So the Eels supporters are resigned to not going anywhere this year. He's coming off contract. He doesn't have long to go at the club. I think he's going to get away with just putting the feet up for the rest of the year and taking it easy.
The other one I forgot to mention was, does Matt Burton hate the Eels? Because he had a cracker of a game.
Yeah, he did. That was one of his better games yesterday.
Does he hate the Eels? Where he just has to punish them every time? Because he always seems to have great games against the Eels. So he fully embodies that Bulldog spirit. And man, he was good yesterday.
Yeah.
The Knights won on Friday, setting me up... Thursday? Thursday.
Yeah.
Setting me up for a massive amount of disappointment for the round, right?
With
my
tipping.
Tips. I ended up getting 6, so it was fine. But the Knights were down by 18 points, I think it was.
I think it was 16-0 at half-time.
Oh, what the hell? 16... I've just gone to some weird thing. 16-0 at half-time. After having an absolutely pathetic... 16-0 half-time. Their half was awful. Drop ball, missed tackles, really just complete garbage. And so the fans booed them off.
Yeah.
Deservingly. Then they managed to come back and just kill my life. How the hell did Manly lose that game? I've got no idea, but that's probably why Daly Cherry-Evans was dropped. Knights ended up winning 26-22, and in the press conference, Adam O'Brien said, "The people who were booing us know nothing about rugby league." Is he, crazy? Is that really the response you want to have to your fans booing you at halftime?
Well, I mean, even if you think that, you really shouldn't say that. Look where his side is at the moment, Adam O'Brien. They're third last. They're third last. He's one who's no doubt feeling the pressure. I was having a look through his record as Knights coach a bit earlier. He started there in 2020. They came 7th, 2021 7th, 2022 14th, 2023 5th, 2024 8th, and this year, as we just said, they're 15th after 14 rounds. Now, I know you might say, "Oh, gee, they made the 8 4 times there. That's pretty good."
That's what people say. They justify.
So this is the problem. Not one top 4 finish though, and out of those 4 seasons where they made the 8 that I just mentioned, they only won one finals game in that time. It was an elimination final against the Raiders in 2023. That was in week 1, and then the next week they got hammered by the Warriors in week 2. So in those 4 finals appearances that he's coached, only one win in the finals once he's got there. So I'll say it again, I've said it quite a few times, what's the point in making the 8 if once you get there, you just don't fire a shot and you go out in week 1 or week 2? Again, only one finals win in 4 final series under Adam O'Brien.
The point is it saves your coach's job.
That's all it does, right?
Yeah, it really is.
It saves the coach's job. It doesn't serve any other purpose.
That's the Ricky Stewart. Oh, he makes the finals and misses out on getting wooden spoons. It's the Adam O'Brien and the Kalen Ponga as well. No, last time we got hammered on social media was a video about how Kalen Ponga hasn't really... he's basically getting overpaid when combined with Dylan Brown and so on and so forth. And people were like, "Oh, since he's come there, they've made the finals 4 times in 5 years." Yeah, also 4 times in 11 years, bro.
Yeah.
But Adam O'Brien is the same. When I know this is going to go up and Knights fans are going to hammer us, but you really have to accept the fact that he's not performing to the level you want as a rugby league fan. As a sports fan, you want your team to win the premiership. Not get to the finals and play for 1 week.
Yeah, they're not improving under him. Yeah. They're going backwards. They're third last now. This is the issue. Coaches should be judged on top 4 finishes, not top 8 finishes, because you have to make the top 4 to win the comp, to be in contention to win the comp. So that's the real metric that you should have for coaches, is finishing in the top 4 at the end of the regular season. That's what you really want out of your coach. And obviously it's really hard to win premierships, of course. So it's hard to judge them solely on premiership wins alone because they're so hard to win. But I think a fairer judgment, a fairer measure is top 4 finishes at the end of the regular season. Because if you can get in the top 4 at the end of the regular season, you give yourself a pretty good chance with that double chance in the first week of the finals. Yeah,
well, if you're not going to judge it off top 4 finishes, then you got to judge it off wins in the finals, right? I would be happy with a coach coming in 8th and then getting to the semis. Because they've won 2 finals games, right? I would prefer it if they think of like if a coach makes the top 4 years in a row, or does the Sharks and make the top 4 and then bow out straight away. Coaches making the top 4, all good, keep going, you hope they improve. Their improvement is to win. If a coach makes the top 8 and then wins a couple of games in the finals every year, you go, yep, sweet, we've got some improvement there to aim for the top 4. Because that's the improvement you're talking about. If they're just making it to the 8 4 times out of 5 and then bowing out straight away, he has brought improvement, or Kalen Ponga has brought improvement. Because like I said, 4 times in 5 years they've made the finals, and 4 times in 11 years they've made the finals. So one of those guys has made the Knights improve in some way. But it's now 4 years. Adam O'Brien's been there 4 years, yeah? 3 years?
Well, it started in 2020, so 5 years.
Yeah, and they're still the exact same. Are Knights fans happy with just making the 8 and bowing out in the top? Well, they seem to be.
Yeah, well, they seem to be because, they jump down our throat whenever we dare question them. So Ponga's been there since 2018 at the Knights, so he's been there for the whole time that O'Brien's been there. So without Ponga there, O'Brien would have been sacked long ago. But just getting back to what he said, very, very out of line, I thought. Bagging the fans. You just got to be above that as the coach.
Sure.
Even if you don't like it, right? Even if you don't like it, you have to just be above that and not respond to it. If you get asked by a reporter about it, you just say, "Oh, well, look, the fans pay their money; they're entitled. The fans pay their money; they're entitled to a response. Thankfully, we improved in the second half and came back and won." Yeah. That's the thing. At that time, they were down 16-0 at half time, and it looked like they were going to have a fade out and lose the game. And they're 15th anyway, so chances were at that stage they were going to lose another game. And of course the fans are going to be frustrated with that. They came back and won. That was good, but they're still well off the pace this year in 15th spot.
In reality, he shouldn't have, like you said, he shouldn't have he criticised it. And they just don't know anything about rugby league. What do you need to know about rugby league to be wrong about what was judged by the fans? When you see a team play as badly as the Knights did, and they're down 16-0, what don't the fans know about rugby league?
At 16-0...
What did he see that everyone else didn't see?
Yeah, I covered the game. I watched the game. I watched the first half. Nobody in the world at half time, the way Newcastle played in that first half, nobody in the world would have thought they were going to come back and win.
Apparently Adam O'Brien did.
But as it turned out, the second half, it just happened to be a different game.
Yeah, well, that's the thing,
and Newcastle came back and won.
Is he trying to imply that he knew that they were going to come back and win? Is that what he's trying to say? Like, it's just a ridiculous statement. The people who booed don't know anything about rugby league. What do you have to know about rugby league to be allowed to boo in a situation like that? Honestly, or to not boo in a situation like that. Who sat there and went, "Hey guys, don't boo. We're definitely going to win this."
Yeah.
Did Adam O'Brien really walk into the shed and go, "All right, guys, we're on top here. We've got this."
Yeah.
Don't worry about the boos. Those guys don't know what they're talking about. We're winning here.
Most people work a 40-hour work week. In some cases, longer. They work full time. In some cases, the football game is their only escape for the week. For a lot of people. They pay good money for the tickets. At half-time, if they feel like their team hasn't aimed up and they boo them off the field, I'm sorry, you've just got to put up with that.
Yeah. Well, I agree with the booing of the team. I never agree with the specific targeting of one player. Like those individuals yelling at individual players and sparking them up. But yeah, they have their... The Knights were diabolically bad, man. It's the kind of thing where Andrew Johns walks out. They were that bad. They looked like an under-8s. And for him to imply that... He basically implied that he knew they were going to win. That's what he was saying. He knows about rugby league and everyone who was booing doesn't. And so he knew what was actually happening. What was happening was they sucked. And they got booed because of it. Then, by the way, he came out the next day with an official apology statement for saying the wrong thing in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, Matty Johns criticised him on his show afterwards. He wasn't happy. Obviously, a former or a Knights legend not happy there with the coach giving the fans a spray there. You feel like sometimes Adam O'Brien doesn't really read the room.
No, I think so.
On these things.
I think that's maybe the third time.
And look, if they don't make the 8, he'll be gone at the end of the year.
Yeah, they've got to.
He's not going to last.
He's walked on a nice edge for years. You know, like that's the thing.
They'd have to make and again, the cycle would then just continue, because if they did scrape into the 8, they wouldn't go anywhere. But that having been said, if he misses the 8, he'll be gone at the end of the year. I think we would agree with that.
Yeah, and there's the young up and comers like Matt King waiting in the wings to come up and
and I was just going to point out as well with this, he was pressed on this at a Knights press conference on Friday, and he said one reason why he made those comments about the booing was he was worried about some social media abuse directed at centre James Schiller. I don't get that. Social media abuse directed at a player is different to fans booing at halftime because you're down 16-0 at halftime.
Jumping at an excuse. He's trying to go. I've seen the comments that were directed at James Schiller. He was getting messages that were like, "Go kill yourself," and like, "I'm going to come," like actual threats. Absolute cowards. Hiding behind anonymity.
But that's completely different to fans booing at halftime because you're down 16.
You know what I feel like him saying that and linking it to the booing and the excuse for him saying this, he's lessened. Like he's made it less that someone was so aggressive to James Schiller, because the messages that he was being sent were horrible. And honestly, like, social media companies need to be more to provide the identities of people like that. Some guy like threatening, like telling him to kill himself or telling him he's going to come get him and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's what it was. And Adam O'Brien linking it to the booing, and then I was emotional and trying to protect James Schiller, he has really lessened this terrible situation in which some douchebag on the internet threatened the guy's life. I've had, in my time as a jiu-jitsu personality, people threaten me, and I always say, all right, here's my location, come my gym, I'll be there 6 p.m. No one ever turns up.
Yeah.
That's the thing, no one ever turns up. But it's still, it doesn't feel good when you get that kind of stuff. Adam O'Brien's just a silly bugger.
And he also said, you talk about excuses, O'Brien also said, and I quote, "I reckon this is the hardest time that I've been involved in at the club in terms of injuries and suspensions. Like, it's hard. But how we react and respond will see us through." So again, with the excuses, getting in there with injury and suspension excuses. Yes, he seems to be all about excuses.
Right now he's trying to save his job, I'd say.
And I know they won on the weekend, but he seems to be all about excuses and not about results at the moment.
Well, they got to play the Roosters this week. And on Saturday, let's see how they go there.
And as we pointed out, they are third last on the ladder. And I'd say he'll be in real strife if they don't make the 8.
Yep. It wouldn't be a SmartB Sports Update podcast without me talking about the Tigers.
Yeah, that's right.
Tigers lost to Panthers. It was a narrow loss. Yeah. But Benji Marshall's had a bit of a blow-up about some refereeing decisions that went against his team. I think Jerome Luai is the new Jared Warrior-Hargraves, to be honest. Like, he's just getting targeted by referees. The Jerome Luai penalty in particular that he was talking about was ridiculous. Last week, Jerome Luai got sin-binned for holding down like 3 times in a row, which was fair. This week, it wasn't a sin bin, it was just a penalty that Panthers scored off the next set. They said he tackled the kicker late off the ball, but if you watch they'll slow down everything to like 1/100th frame of a second. There's a photo of it. The ball is actually still touching the kicker's foot when Jerome Luai makes contact.
Yeah. NRL head of football Graham Annesley's sort of clarified.
Yeah.
If you can believe that, he's clarified the decisions. He says it's clear from the vision that Jerome Luai props on his left foot and turns his back to initiate contact with Liam Martin. Regarding the contact on kicker Blaze Talangi, the rules are very clear and have been reinforced with clubs on multiple occasions over recent seasons. Players have a duty of care to avoid dangerous contact with kickers who are in the process of kicking and in a vulnerable position. This is a player safety policy which has been in place for a number of years. So, no surprise, Graham Annesley comes out and says, nothing to see here, the right decisions were made.
On the field, he said you hit him late. So, was it penalty for hitting him late or was it penalty for turning away? Because the ref said you hit him late. So, again, no matter what Graham Annesley comes at, that's like he's accidentally fallen into the right hole. You know, the penalty was right. Not for the reason the referee said it was. We just conveniently found an excuse. Like, that's absolutely nuts. It wasn't a penalty. It wasn't a penalty at all. It was absolutely ridiculous. And look, Benji Marshall can criticise the referee for the penalty. The Tigers shouldn't. The Panthers scored on the next set, right? Tigers should have held him out. That's the difference between a Stephen Crichton, for example, Stephen Crichton led Bulldogs. If that crap happens, the Bulldogs don't blow up and all have a whine. Stephen Crichton gets them on track to defend this out. You want to make up for it. Don't whine about it. You know you're not going to change the referee's decision. We are just going to defend extra hard this set to make up for it and get the ball back, boys.
But that's right. This is the problem with the Tigers. The mentality of the whole club is blame someone else. Don't take accountability yourself. Blame someone else. It's someone else's fault. It's always someone else's fault. It's been someone else's fault for the last 20 years where they've done nothing after winning that premiership in 2005. Yeah. And look, we have to say, Marshall may have had a point about that decision in isolation. Okay. But it doesn't change the overall trajectory of where they're heading. 4 straight losses now. Including a 64-0 thumping to the Storm a few weeks ago.
That was awful.
They're in the bottom 4 now after that promising start. They're 14th on the ladder. They got the spoon in Marshall's first season last year, so it seems that they're feeling the pressure. I think if they finish this season where they are now, which is 14th, I think he'll be gone at the end of the season. That's 100%. I think they need to improve a fair bit. I'm not saying they need to make the 8, but they need to improve a fair bit on where they are now, in my view, for him to not be fired at the end of the season.
There's a good point to raise there, right? Because last year they improved. That was the braggadocio and the thing about how the Tigers fans were ready for it because they won 6 games. Okay? As opposed to 2023 where they won 4 games. So last year they improved. So far this year they've won 5 games. So is improvement going to be that they win 7?
Well, that's it, right?
Yeah.
So how many games did they win last year?
6.
Did you say 6, and they won 5
so
now.
Far this year.
So I think they need. So they got 5 wins. I think they need 9 or 10 wins.
Yeah, so that's what you'd have to think, right? If they do finish 14th and it's off the back of 6 wins, then Benji Marshall would probably be gone. I mean, I don't think he will. I don't think they'll get rid of him. I think they'll give him another year either way. They still don't, because remember last year he wasn't actually the coach, right?
Oh no, that was the year before. He was actually the coach last year. The year before was the year where Tim Sheens was the coach.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I just think, because last year was the year they were waiting for all their signings.
Yeah, last year they won the spoon with him as the coach.
Yeah, but they were waiting for all their signings, right? They got Jerome Luai and all that this year.
Yeah, Tim Sheens was officially the coach in 23, and Marshall was, the actual coach with Tim Sheens as the figurehead. But Marshall was the coach last year.
Yeah, but last year they wrote off from the very beginning of the year because they were waiting for their signings. But they managed to improve without their signings by winning a couple of extra games. This year they've got all their signings, and if they just win a couple of extra games, it's not really that much of an improvement. With the roster they have and the players they have, they should be pushing for the top half of the bottom half of the ladder. They should be pushing for that 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th position, not languishing in 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, or 17th. And so you would have to say if it was any other club, if they do finish in 14th, 13th, 15th, 16th, or 17th, then the coach would go. But I think the Tigers will give Benji Marshall another year.
Well, he's under contract until 2027, but contracts don't really mean a whole lot in this scenario.
I just think they'll make the excuse for him because he's Benji Marshall. They may,
they may do that. But yeah, you mentioned before, they were waiting for their signings. Yeah, they're always waiting for something. There's always something they're waiting for. There's always some excuse. There's some, this year we were doing this, or this year we were doing this, or this year we were rebuilding, this year we were waiting for this player. Next year will be much better because this player's coming. They were supposed to be this year. Luai's come, and so this was supposed to be the better year. And I know they had the Galvin drama, which was a circus, and that clearly hasn't helped.
That's killed him, I think.
And it really hasn't helped, and of course something like that is going to be a distraction.
That's their excuse to retain Marshall for another year. Next year they won't have the Galvin drama.
It could be you're right.
And
that could be the excuse.
That other May brother as well. Taylor May is about to join as well, or maybe he has.
Yeah, that was. If that's not confirmed, it's very close to being confirmed.
Oh, yeah, he has now. Just now, 1 hour ago.
Right. Okay.
It's confirmed as of 1 hour ago.
Yeah.
Train and trial contract, so he could be on the field this year. That's what I think. I don't think Marshall will go this year. I think they'll give him that last year because he won't have the Lachlan Galvin situation next year. They're waiting till next year now where they won't have the Lachlan Galvin situation.
Yeah, you're right. So that'll be the excuse for this year. We'll write off this year because of Galvin and the Galvin drama. And next year will be the year. So,
yeah, I think so. Still with the West Tigers. Tim Sheens and Benji Marshall sure does have a lot of feuds with a lot of people. Just FYI.
That's the thing. Isaac Moses. We're not big fans of Isaac Moses, but Isaac Moses isn't the only person that he's feuding with.
He's got his own book of feuds. The Benji Marshall book of feuds. So Tim Sheens didn't go to the premiership reunion. So it's 20 years since they won the premiership. Yeah. And Tim Sheens, the coach, didn't go to the premiership reunion because Benji Marshall stole his job 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, this was reported in the Telegraph on Sunday now. The players apparently were those 2005 premiership winning players at the Tigers. Apparently they were disappointed that Sheens decided to boycott the event. It was thought that Sheens would be there because, former chairman Lee Hadjipantelis and former CEO Justin Pascoe, they're no longer at the West Tigers, so it was thought that, Sheens will be there because, those who got rid of him are no longer there. But apparently, according to some sources, Sheens no longer gets on with Benji Marshall, and he didn't want to be there given that Marshall, obviously... Well, not only is Marshall the head coach now, but obviously he's going to be at the reunion because he was part of the team that won the premiership in 2005. So now Sheens and Marshall no longer talk. I think it is a bit sad that, he's letting, that's the only premiership that they've won, and by the looks of things, it's going to be the only premiership they do win for a long time. I would have thought it's going to be a while before they win another one. So it would have been nice, I think, for Sheens to show up, but no, he couldn't bring himself to do it. There's bad blood between him and Benji.
In the end, Tim Sheens is just a grumpy old man now, 74 years old. And so that's the kind of thing that grumpy old men do.
Do you think men get grumpier as they get older?
Oh, yeah. There's the thing, I've watched a comedian do a joke about, you just stop caring about things. As the older you get, the more you stop caring about things. And that's why so many... 60 and 50 and 60 and 70-year-old retirees come out as gay because they just actually stop caring. And
so you don't think so Sheens is 74, I think.
Yeah, 74.
So you don't think there'd be any part of him that would go, I'm 74, he might live a fair while longer. I'm not saying that, he won't live a fair while longer, Tim Sheens, but wouldn't there be part of him that would go, 20 years, wouldn't it be nice to go back? And you reckon, honestly, it's just, I think
as you get older,
you reckon it goes the other way and he's like, I'm not going to this.
Yeah. I've already got all my memories, can't be bothered getting out of bed, or, I prefer to just watch me stories. That's the kind of thing. You just stop caring about anything that requires any effort as the older and older you get. That's really what it is, man.
Right, you reckon?
And so, what I'm saying is the feud is there. But what goes through old people's heads is, I can get up and go to this West Tigers reunion. Bloody Benji will be there. Yeah. Or I can stay home with me porridge and me blankie and watch me stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Porridge and blankie and stories.
It's easier to stay home.
Yeah.
And so I'll stay home.
It becomes harder and harder to care about things that have even a little roadblock to them, and I think that's just it. Is like I just don't care anymore. If the boys want to see me, they can come over and see me, and that's one of the things you notice with like your parents and stuff like that, right? There's cycles that you go through as you age, where when you're little and you're young, you see your parents all the time because you live with them, and then when you first move out, your parents make a lot of an effort to see you because now you're like 20. Young adult or whatever, and you don't want to put in time for your parents. As you get older and older and you get to the 50s and the 60s, you are going to your parents' house more. If you're 40, 50s, you are the one that's in case. Your parents just like, they're kind of just like, I can just hang at home.
Yeah.
John will come see me. I don't have to go outside.
Yeah, so it sort of reverses.
Yeah, it is. And because it does, like, you got to remember, old people, it's hard to get just to functioning life. The older you get, the harder it is. So
you reckon he's just looked at it and gone, this is just too hard. I can't be bothered.
Like, Benji's going to be there. Do I really want to put up with this feud with people be asking? I might have to walk up to him and say hello, and I can just stay at home in my blankie with me porridge and me stories.
Yeah.
Like what? Some.
Because I guess he's 74.
Yeah.
Like what does he care?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's probably he won premierships at Canberra, right?
I think he was their coach in the 90s when they won it, but I'll check.
Yeah, so he's probably
in 94, I'm pretty sure.
And you think about it like that, like
he's
been to 20-year premiership anniversaries before. Yeah.
Coached them in 89, 90 and 94 to premiership.
So he's been to 3 before. Why does he need to go to another one? He's probably been to the 10-year anniversary for the Tigers. Like, why do I need to go to another reunion? I've been to so many of them.
And 05 with the Tigers. Yeah, so he won 4 premierships as coach. So he's some sort of coach.
Yeah, man.
Tim Sheens.
Well, the fact he won one with the Tigers and look what's happened since just shows what he was because...
Yeah, I think if you can win a premiership coaching the Tigers, you've got a lot going for you.
I don't think he's the reason the Tigers are broken. I think he's the exception to the Tigers being broken. Like, that's the real thing.
Well, results would indicate that because nobody who's come in since he left has done any good.
I don't think it's like a Wayne Bennett situation who left the Broncos and they haven't been able to win since then because basically really when Wayne Bennett broke the Broncos. I think Tim Sheens was the outlier to the Tigers nonsense, and until they solve that merger issue, they'll never be able to do anything. Anyway, Origin in 8 days. Pumped for it? Not really. I was like, it's better for us as a news and sports information website that New South Wales loses this week, so we have more to talk about.
Origin 3. haven't decided to talk about.
But it's I hope New South Wales win, and games this weekend are going to be demented. I'm really. I got to be honest. I'm looking forward to the Origin period ending and the focus returning to the NRL season. I can't stand the fact that Matt Burton won't be playing on the weekend for the Bulldogs. I just can't stand it. It really is I don't care about.
Yeah, I think you just got to go. Look, the 18th man. It's that unlikely that they're going to take part in the game that you just let them play for their club.
I think that epitomises everything that is currently wrong with Origin. So the fact that Matt Burton for the 3rd year, is it in a row? I think for the 3rd year.
I think so. Yeah.
3rd year in a row, will miss up to 2 Bulldogs games. I don't think he's only going to miss 1 this week because next week they have a bye, so he won't miss a game.
But the bye is happening after the Origin game.
Yeah, so he'll miss this week, and then there would be every chance that he might have to be rested. Well, he wouldn't have to be rested, but there's a possibility of resting.
Yeah, I guess it would just depend how much part he took in the game and whether he would need the rest. Right?
Like that's the thing, guys. Yeah. Even if he did play, he wouldn't play very many minutes, and then he might have to bloody rest the next week. So it's just, I think that epitomises everything that's wrong with Origin and how it breaks the season. Matt Burton, for the 3rd year in a row, having to miss games because he's the 18th man. And not playing Origin.
Yeah, it's infuriating because and I heard Serraldo talk about it. I think he wants his players to play Origin because they come back to their club as better players, having had the experience of played Origin. But the problem with being 18th man is you might get no minutes, so you don't get any benefit from missing. I mean, if your player's going to miss their club game to play Origin, well, you want them to at least get the benefit of having the experience of playing the Origin game, and then they come back as a better player. But if they're just sitting on the bench as 18th man, well, they're not getting that experience, and so it's just a waste of time that they're not able to play for their club the weekend before.
Exactly. It's terrible. Woke up this morning after 2 hard training sessions. Oh my God, I have so much washing, and boy, does it sting! But luckily, I have Gourami Cleaning Codes Gear Guard, Clear the Funk, proud sponsor of SmartB. I've tried all of the ones that are around, and they're the ones that I suggest. They leave my clothes after training smelling like nothing. They don't do this thing where they smell like chemicals or flowers, and they don't advertise themselves as being a washing powder replacement. Instead, you add 1 cupful to your laundry, and off you go. Head to GouramiCleaning.co and buy yours now. Gearguard is a proud sponsor of the SmartB Sports Update. The French Open is over though.
Yes.
And so is Jannik Sinner's. Clearly his steroids is all off cycle because Carlos Alcaraz beat him. So that's his second French Open, right?
Yeah, won the French Open last year as well. That's now 5 Grand Slam titles for Carlos Alcaraz, and he's only 22 years old.
I think I read a thing, the only person who was the same was Rafael Nadal.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, to put it in context, Andre Agassi regarded as one of the all-time greats. He won 8 majors in his whole career. John McEnroe regarded as one of the all-time greats. Won 7 majors over his whole career, 7 singles majors. Carlos Alcaraz has won 5 majors and he's 22.
Yeah.
So that just puts into context what he's done. He's won 5 Grand Slam titles at the age of 22.
And I think, it was Nadal had also won 5 at 22 or something like that. And he's the only one.
But it was, I'll tell you what, it was an extraordinary final. A lot of people commenting on it.
Greatest final.
I think it's the greatest match they've ever seen. A lot of people up there with, the 2008 Wimbledon final between Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer, that thrilling Wimbledon final, and that 2019 Wimbledon final comes to mind as well between Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer.
The thing with this one was, so Jannik Sinner was up 2 sets, right?
Yes, he was. He was up 2 sets to love. Alcaraz came back. So Sinner won it started at 11:30. I watched the first set. And then the first set went for an hour. I went to bed. I couldn't watch any more. And then, and then the match finished at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And so Sinner won the second set 7-6. Then Alcaraz just mounted his comeback. 6-4 in the third, he won that. 7-6 in the fourth, he won that. And then he won a match tiebreaker in the fifth and won that set 7-6 as well. So, well done to Carlos Alcaraz. Sinner, and so Sinner had a real opportunity there in the fourth set. Sinner had a 5-3 lead in the fourth set, and Alcaraz was down love 40 on his serve. So he had 3 match points, Sinner. And so it's reminiscent of that 2019 Wimbledon final where it's a little bit different in that Federer was serving. But Federer was up 40-15 and 8-7 in the fifth and lost from that position, having the 2 match points. Here, Sinner had 3 match points at love 40, 5-3 up in the fourth and lost from that position. And I'll tell you what, the people who think that the 3-month ban was too light and it wasn't a long enough punishment and it was a convenient ban in between the majors, I'll tell you what, a lot of people will be sitting there going, oh, well, maybe in the end justice was done. With Alcaraz coming back and winning that match.
Well, I still think the ban wasn't long enough because...
and so if you think that, well, maybe justice was served, right?
And he still gets paid, but it's really... Man, I love the memes about it because one of the things that Clusterball does, which is what the steroid that Jannik Sinner tested positive for, is enhances stamina, cardio... And the fact that, this is the memes, right? The fact that he won the first 2 sets and then couldn't keep up the pace for the rest, it's clearly he's obviously off his Clusterball cycle. They just write themselves. It was really, like, I've only watched the highlights because, the 11:30 start. I'm in bed by 9, bro. I'm never going to watch that.
5.5 hours. It finished at 5 a.m.
God.
So it's the longest final to ever be played at the French Open.
And so now, so Jannik Sinner's won the Australian Open this year.
Yeah.
And made it to the final of the French Open.
Yeah. Novak Djokovic made the semis, lost to Jannik Sinner. So again, Novak Djokovic, he's not out of it. He's made the semis at the two majors this year. You can't say that he's done for.
Yeah, this is the thing, right?
You can't. He's making semi-finals.
Every time we think, what is the Godfather? Just when you think I'm out, they pull me back in. Just when I think Novak Djokovic should retire. A month ago, I was saying my bro should retire. But now I'm like, no, he should play through to the end of the year and see how he goes.
He's turned 38 now, but still, he's, so a lot of people sung the praises of Sinner and Alcaraz after that final. Rafael Nadal, the 14-time champion himself, Rod Laver, Billie Jean King, Stan Wawrinka, Juan Martin Del Potro, and of all people, Matthew McConaughey as well, the actor. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, a lot of people, just blown away by that men's final at the French Open.
Meanwhile, in the women's final,
Aryna Sabalenka.
Coco Gauff smashed her. Yeah. Not really smashed her, but I think Coco Gauff is Aryna Sabalenka's bogey team, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, Aryna Sabalenka, she just doesn't handle. She won the first set 7-6. Coco Gauff came back, won 6-2, 6-4 in the second and third sets. But she just doesn't handle losing finals well, Sabalenka.
No, she doesn't handle
Same
losing
thing happened at the Australian Open. She didn't handle losing that final well. The same things happen again here at the French Open. Some of these comments she made are just extraordinary in the press conference after the match. This is what she said. She said, if you can believe this, I'm just looking for the quote here. Yeah, for some reason, Sabalenka said that Iga Swiatek would have beaten Coco Gauff in the final. That was what she said in the press conference afterwards. She said, and I quote, "If Iga had beaten me the other day, I think she'd come out today and get the win." Sabalenka said, if you can believe that. How bizarre is that?
Well,
that's just extraordinary. That'd be like if who's going to be in the grand final in the NRL this year?
Storm Broncos.
Well, let's go on last year, right? The Panthers beat the Storm last year in the grand final. That'd be like Craig Bellamy in the press conference saying that if I'm trying to think who the Panthers beat in the prelim last year. I can't think of it. Like who was it? Who did the Panthers beat in the prelim last year?
I don't even
just trying to think off the top of my head.
So long ago. The Roosters? No.
The Storm beat the Roosters in the prelim, right? So say if Craig Bellamy came out after the grand final and said, "Oh gee, I reckon if the Roosters were playing the Panthers, the Roosters would have beaten them."
Mm.
That's what.
She
what
also
it
said
been.
something like, the only reason she won was because I made so many errors or I played so terribly or something like that. Like, I'm not verbatim quoting, but...
Yeah, I've got the quote here. She says, "I think she won the match not because she played incredible, just because I made all of those mistakes."
What is wrong with you? Honestly. I mean, I actually, it's really funny. We talk about it there's so many cliche interviews, right? And I was watching a jiu-jitsu event once, and after every match, they were doing the interview, and I was like, "What do you think?" And the guy was like, he put up a hard fight, and I was just really happy to be able to show my jiu-jitsu, and he was really good. And I did a social media post. I was like, just once, I'd like to see someone say, "Everyone's jiu-jitsu is shit. Give me someone good. This guy was crap. I just smashed him. My technique is way better." I just want to see that. But honestly, it's got to be realistic, right? So if you walk out and you smash someone, what's it called? If you walk out and you smash someone in 6 love, 6 love, 6 love, right? Then you can say the reason I won is because they were so terrible, right? Mm. And if you get smashed 6 love, 6 love, 6 love, Then you can walk out and, well, that's a men's one, but in women's, 6 love, 6 love. She could have walked out and said, yeah, I think Iga Swiatek would have put up a better fight, right? You could say that. But the fact is, Coco Gauff won the match. It wasn't an easy one. It was hard. And Sabalenka, tennis, you get unforced errors when pressure gets to you, right? And one of the things that you do in tennis as a player, is trying to apply pressure to your opponent so they make unforced errors. So Coco Gauff just played the perfect game and smashed her. Too bad. I think Coco Gauff is her bogey. I think she's beat her 3 times or something.
And Coco Gauff responded to these comments
Legend.
From Sabalenka and said, she's actually come out and addressed it directly. Coco Gauff says, look, no shade to Iga or anything. This is referencing those comments about Iga Swiatek. And Coco Gauff says, quote, but I played her and I won in straight sets in Madrid in May. I don't think that's a fair thing to say. Anything can happen. Honestly, the way Aryna was playing the last few weeks, she was the favourite to win. I think she was the best person I could have played in the final. So she's actually addressed it head on there, Coco Gauff, and said, look, you say that Swiatek would have beaten me. Well, I actually beat her in straight sets on the same surface in Madrid in May. So,
well, you know how Swiatek wouldn't have won? It's because Sabalenka beat Swiatek and then Coco Gauff beat Sabalenka. They actually have a measurable way to do it.
Yeah, it's just madness. It's just madness from Sabalenka because you just go, look, you lost.
Yeah.
You're not going to improve. You've lost the match. The match is finished now. It's not changing. You're not going to improve your situation by making ridiculous comments in the press conference like this, saying that someone who didn't even make the final would have beaten your opponent. It's just ridiculous.
I reckon she's hired the same marketing team that Novak Djokovic has, because she goes and does those comedic charity matches and exhibition matches now and tries to get people to like her. But it doesn't matter what you do when you say nonsense like that. It's just going to burn all those bridges.
And to be fair to Novak Djokovic, he's had his missteps in the past. But he'd never be stupid enough to say something like that. The same thing happened. The Australian Open, she lost the final of the Australian Open. The same thing happened. She's a sore loser. She can't hack losing. She needs to become a better loser. Losing's part of the sport. You go out there against somebody on the day, there's a chance you're going to lose the match. And it's inevitable. It's going to happen, and you need to be better at dealing with it, better at handling
definitely. it. Finally, for the week, we all knew it was coming. Ange Postecoglou has been sacked by Tottenham. Yeah. They also sacked their women's coach.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
Well, he won something, but he won nonsense.
Well, he won the Europa League, so...
It was like third-tier relegation, something league, blah, blah, blah. It's their first trophy in 17 years, but it's actually, not that big of a deal, or I don't know. Nobody understands EPL. But yeah, they've sacked him. That's 2 years in charge, I think, he had at Tottenham, and they've let him go after he won the Europa League.
Yeah.
Which is like a third-tier competition. We looked it up once. I think third tier. It was to be expected. That's the thing with the EPL, soccer in Europe. There's so many competitions. You can win something every week and still get sacked, because if you're not performing in the important competitions, then you'll get sacked anyway. It's like basically winning the Arrival Live Cup or the Charity Shield or something like that, and then expecting to keep your job after you miss the finals and get smashed in the actual NRL.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out how many years he had left on his contract here, Postecoglou. I think he might have had 2 years left on his contract, and they've let him go.
Yep.
I can't find confirmation of that at the moment, though.
Yeah, he was in his second year in his contract and he had 2 more to go.
He had 2 more to go, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've seen that. Yeah, okay, yeah. So he did have 2 more to go.
But yeah, it was to be expected, because Tottenham have been terrible in the actual EPL. And so that's it. The EPL is the one that makes the money. But EPL is like a real Moneyball situation. They tried to implement a salary cap over there. Problem was, the salary cap was going to be $120 million, because that's the whatever the lowest team could afford, something like that. And they've been talking about it for years. I was researching it recently, but some of the teams are worth like £380 million. So it was going to be £120 million, but some of the teams are worth £380 million. The difference in low teams and high teams is so vast they can't even implement a salary cap.
Yeah. So they only just avoided relegation there.
Yeah.
They finished one spot out of the relegation zone. So Leicester City, Ipswich Town and Southampton were relegated.
He basically won the Arrive Alive Cup. You know, the Charity Shield, like nothing. It's irrelevant. I mean, it's good for Tottenham fans. Well done. You got some silverware. And, I remember, when the Rabbitohs were going through the leanest period ever, and they'd miss the finals 20 years in a row, and they would win the Charity Shield every year, and everyone would make fun of them because it meant they'd won their grand final for the year, because that was the best they can do. And you always want to win something, but in the end he was going to go because Tottenham got one point away from relegation.
They were one spot above relegation. They came 17th, and 18, 19, and 20 get relegated.
Yeah, so 1 point. So he was going to get sacked no matter what. It was expected. That's it for the week.
Should we hang around for the team lists, or what do you reckon?
We'll just do a post.
Okay, so we're thinking Galvin will get picked at 5/8
for I really want to...
For the Bulldogs. And there was one other... Yeah, and we were going to look at the Dragons, whether they've dropped Kyle Flanagan.
They definitely have not dropped Flanagan.
Yeah, well, I think we know that they won't.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd think that's what... We've got 5 minutes until the teams are named. I don't know if we'll make it. But you'd think that's what's going to happen, right?
It should be.
Those would be the scenarios.
It's between 4 and 5 they have to be named, so it could be another hour.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
You'd think that's what's. I mean, and obviously, I don't think Flanagan will be dropped from the Dragons.
No, definitely not.
But you would think that Galvin and Sexton will be the halves for the Bulldogs.
I think so. Because
Burton is
not
there.
Yeah. That's it. Don't forget to go to optimumcbd.store to buy all of your CBD needs. You must be over 18 to order. Orders over $99 get free delivery. And use GearGuard from GuaramiCleaning.co for all of your washing. Honestly, I think I said it last week. I was in full mount on some guy at the gym the other day, and he said, "At least you smell nice." And that's all thanks to GearGuard by Gurami Cleaning. I wash all of my clothes in it, not just my jiu-jitsu gear or my gym gear. And it kills all the bacteria, it kills all the smells. So definitely I suggest everyone get it. Just add 1 cupful to your washing. Get it from GuaramiCleaning.co. And we'll see you next week, Dan.
Thanks, John.
Origin. We'll find out if Clint
Thanks, John. We'll catch you next week, mate. Have a good week.